In this video we will start reviewing legendary powers that we will all have in Shadowlands. I will start by talking to you about how legendary powers are supposed to work, just a quick recap, and then we will talk about demon hunters, what legendary powers demon hunters will have. Yeah, there are too many otherwise to put into one video, so let's go class by class to do them some justice and talk about it. Let's do it! Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gyro, I'm your host here. As I already explained, today we're talking about legendary powers and it's going to be a little awkward, so let's get that out of the way. I am not in beta, in case you're not one of my regulars and you don't know, and you're wondering, what is this footage in the background? Why aren't you talking to some actual Shadowlands footage, Gyro? Because I'm not there, my friend. Because I'm not there, okay? And yes, the information is taken from Wowhead website, so all credit where credit is due goes to them, visit their website and all of that, they're wonderful people. Legendaries used to be items, right? We used to obtain them through quests, through farming materials, through killing high-end bosses, and we've seen it all throughout different expansions of World of Warcraft. This time around in Shadowlands it looks like things are changing, and I would dare say they're changing for the better. It is an honest opinion, I do think so. So we are going to be instead using base items, the ones that are craftable base white items, yeah, that will be done by people with professions, and then we will be collecting runes, collecting soul ash, collecting different materials, which we're not in-depth reviewing here because I have not tested it myself. This is all upon us, but the principle is very interesting. So we are going to be using services of a rune crafter, of someone who is sitting in Torghast Tower, and he will be making our legendaries for us based on that base item, yeah, as well as the recipe or blueprint, or however we want to call it, something that we will be finding in Torghast and other places, as far as I have understood from reading Wowhead myself. So there will be legendary powers to collect, and then those are like recipes. We'll weave them into our slots, shoulders, necks, chests, stuff like that. There will be general legendary powers, things like Echo of Iona summons a spiritual familiar to your side. Your spells and abilities have a chance to send your familiar to a nearby ally. I am not going to bother reading through all of these things, but this stuff, these screenshots are from Wowhead, guys, and you can take a look, and towards the end of this video I will be kind of summarizing which ones of all of these powers make sense to me, as I would be probably at the moment theoretically taking these abilities or pursuing those abilities, trying to get those recipes if I'm lucky. So with this Echo of Iona, it seems like a pretty good one. It has the familiar that it sends to nearby ally to increase their damage, or if no allies are present, it sends that familiar to an enemy and it increases the damage they take. Okay, sounds fun, sounds pretty cool, very speculative. I feel weird kind of discussing it right now, but I am interested and I can no longer contain that urge to talk to you guys about these things. There are some other things, but we probably won't spend too much time here on general legendary powers because they are general, and them being general by definition makes them somewhat boring. And once again, if you go to wowhead.com, you'll be able to read about this in great detail yourself. But how about we take a look at now the Demon Hunters legendary powers selection. So looks like the way it will work is that Demon Hunters and any other class will have 4 of the abilities that are applicable to the whole class, regardless of the spec, and then the specs will have 4 powers each additionally. So for example, Havoc Demon Hunter will be able to have 8 powers in total, and if I presume if it's a class with 3 specs available, as majority of classes at World of Warcraft have 3 specs, then they would have obviously more, up to 12 different legendary powers. That makes me interested, excited, but kind of running a little bit ahead of myself from what I've seen so far. Again, not paying completely microscope based attention to it, not zooming in too much from the level that I have invested into this. Only a few abilities, there are some, but only a few abilities, only a few legendary powers made me particularly excited. So there are not that many that made me excited, okay? So let's take a look at the Havoc Demon Hunter legendary powers then. So we have 4, as I said. We have Chaos Theory. That's where Blade Dance has a 10% chance to give us an effect of Chaotic Blades that increases the damage of Chaos Strike by 25% and the chance to refund Fury. Okay, well, highly useful, semi-passive effect, well, passive effect actually, reliant on the same button. So it kind of fits into the boredom that I was describing that a person might feel when they play Havoc Demon Hunter compared to some other classes, but that simplicity is also efficiency. You can sometimes see simplicity of design that results in efficiency, in something that a person can get a high output from very little investment of skill or time. Then we have things like Darkest Hour, where you automatically trigger the defensive cooldown of darkness. You have Erratic Fell Core that reduces the cooldown of Fell Rush, so you'll be able to dash around like crazy. That's, in my opinion, those are pretty boring. So that is where, I know I just said that Chaos Theory is boring, but some abilities are more boring than others, naturally, right? Without a doubt, the most powerful, in my opinion, ability here is the Inner Demons. It's where Chaos Strike, that you use all the time, has a chance to summon a crashing demon that crashes into your target and AoEs the enemies. Okay, it's just another proc, just another damage proc. Okay, that's fine, there is boredom in that. But the way they implemented it is that they basically, you know, created this, presumably this ally demon that crashes into your enemies. I can't wait to see how exactly visually that works, because the visuals are important to us, let's not pretend that they are not, and I think that it's gonna be pretty fun. With these being discussed, so these are the Havoc Demon Hunter powers in Shadowlands, let's take a look at Vengeance. Well, I keep hearing that Vengeance was really performing fantastically well in the hands of Mythic Raiders in Shadowlands Beta, but recently I keep hearing that they've been nerfed, so people who are pushing high-end or who aim to push high-end, they're actually not that pleased with the changes to Vengeance Demon Hunters. If you know anything about my channel and anything about how I play, you know that I don't care. You know that if the class plays well and it's good in my hands, then for my level of content it probably will be fine. And if you play anywhere similar to me, you're probably gonna be fine too. With that being said, let's take a closer look at the Vengeance legendary powers. We have Fell Flame Fortification. It's just a passive effect that reduces magical damage when Immolation Aura is on. Okay, nothing exciting. We have Fiery Soul, where each soul fragment consumed by Soul Cleave reduces cooldown on Fiery Brand by 2 seconds. Nothing exciting. We have Resurrect Defilement, where Soul Cleave reduces the remaining cooldown of any random sigil by 8 seconds. I know there will be people who will tell me, Gyro, you don't know what you're talking about, sigils are super exciting and super useful. I think this is the most useless, the most wasteful, waste of place, waste of time collecting materials and making that type of legendary with that legendary power, in my opinion. Reducing cooldown on my sigils, yes, I use them sometimes, but I always opt into passively proccing a sigil when I jump into a place. I know some of them silence enemies, some of them do a little bit of a puddle of fire underneath, but that's about it. It has never, in my opinion, contributed to any particular success or failure of my runs, which is why I'm not excited about this. If there was, in fact, a list that I would be producing about the least exciting legendary powers, it's this one, Resurrect Defilement. It's horrible. Finally, we have Spirit of the Darkness Flame, where the Fiery Brand heals you for a massive amount of, for 100% of damage done, and each enemy hit by your Sigil of Flame increases the instant damage of the next Fiery Brand by 15%, stacking up to 15 times. That seems powerful, but all of this, when we start talking numbers, guys, right? This is where it gets, like, this is where it goes from theory crafting towards awkwardness, and I want to acknowledge that straight away before you try to call me out on that. Until we start testing it, and until all the numbers that Blizzard currently has put into those abilities and Wowhead has data mined and offered us on their website, until all of that is set in stone and we start testing actually those abilities, how much damage does that crashing demon do, how much actually physical, like actual tangible contribution does this buff to Theory brand in casuals' hands, how much does that equate to? Until that happens, I don't think we can conclusively say if it's a good or a bad thing. Now let's talk about general Demon Hunter powers. 4 of those legendary powers that both Havoc and Vengeance can have. And these are actually, well, relatively promising if you think about it. Collective Anguish is basically summoning an allied Demon Hunter whenever you cast Fell Devastation or I-Beam, and then they duplicate basically your Fell Devastation or I-Beam, or at the very least that's what the description of the ability says. Sounds great to me. Sounds great to me. If basically that allied Demon Hunter, right, if they do an exact replica of the spell, if it literally is a duplicate spell, then you're doubling the damage of your Fell Devastation and I-Beam. Which remains to be seen in practice, but if that is in fact what's happening, that is, I'm not gonna say OP, but that is probably something that can be without a doubt qualified as a legendary power. I would say that that's a legendary ability, for sure, 100%. Dagle Boon, I-Beam or Fell Devastation have 20%, that's every 5th time, right? Have a chance to not incur cooldown. You can do it straight away again, if you have enough, obviously, power. Right? Like, I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's passive, it's simplistic, but it's pretty good. Fell Bombardment, that is something for those people who like to play with throwing glaives. I've never been that person. I know early on in Legion there was a build that was based on enabling that 2 charges on the glaive, and then there was, I think, a bleed effect, if I'm not mistaken, that was quite OP. I would not pretend to remember very correctly, because I personally have not tested that build, tested that playstyle thoroughly. But this thing, I think, talks to it, because Immolation Aura's damage, which does damage to everyone obviously, has a chance to grant a stack of Fell Bombardment. So if you are immolating a lot of enemies, I imagine that would be proccing pretty often, but again, needs to be tested. It will increase the damage of the next throw glaive by 20%, and launching an additional glaive at a nearby target, and this effect stacks up to 5 times. So you'll be literally, that's why it's Fell Bombardment, you'll be literally bombarding people with those glaives. I'm not going to put this on my list of preferred kind of things that right now I think I'd be investing into. But maybe I'm fooling myself, and maybe it is just literally up to what you can get, because these are legendary powers, these are probably rare to obtain as a recipe or as a blueprint or whatever it is, right? And we probably will be happy with whatever, I imagine, yeah? At the moment we look at this and we're like, oh, if I had an access to the whole list, this is what I'd pick, this is what I'd not pick. Maybe it will be this way, maybe it won't be as hard to obtain those legendary powers, because you also have to grind Soul Ash, you also have to grind the materials, real materials, to make the legendary item. So that would explain it to me. But this is where, again, theory crafting turns into a little bit of speculation, and we kind of have to leave it at that, because that's the best I can offer you guys. I'm interested in it, but all I can offer you is speculation at this stage. So Fell Bombardment is cool. And now something that is, I think, borderline goofy, but at the same time probably has some usefulness, but I think it's more about ego boosting, this one. Half Giant Empowerment. Metamorphosis increases your size, movement speed and melee range by 100%. That is double the size. So whatever you are on the screen will be double the size. It will be pretty cool. You will not fit into any doors, but I would argue you would not use metamorphosis in the doorways, right? Like, I mean, that's probably not exactly the use case that will be suffering particularly from it. But if you're a tanking Demon Hunter in front of the raid and suddenly you like grow in size like that, that's pretty cool. Movement speed, good. Movement speed is good. Movement speed is actual buff, actual boost, full on. And melee range by 100%, well, that just increases your melee range. I think it's okay. I think that's pretty okay. Your immolation aura will hit more, yeah, because it's melee range, things like that. I welcome your comments, by the way, guys, in case I didn't say it in this particular video, because I thought we have a lot to read. This is not a particular type of video that I normally produce, but we are now in that uncharted territory where we start looking at some of the data mined information. I do not have direct access to beta, but we are soon going to be in the pre-patch. We're soon going to be testing, if not this, because for this we'll have to wait until, you know, end of October. That's fine, it's not very far anyway. But all of this is close to us, so I think some educated or at least semi-educated discussion is healthy, and it's going to help us and possibly save us time when the game actually hits. So I hope you found it useful. If you did, please subscribe. If you haven't already, like the video. More videos like this can be easily produced. I like speculating about this, I like reading about this, and if there are people in my community who like this type of videos, now is not the time to be shy. Now is the time to tell me, mate, we would rather hear your thoughts on this and offer you our thoughts on this, therefore, than hear another review of a class or something like that. Let me know in the comments down below. Ultimately, I'm here to have a little bit of fun, connect with you guys, and make sure that you're having fun as well. So please, let's not expect magic from this process. Let's work together on this and keep the dream alive. Yeah, I had to say it. Okay. Thank you very much for tuning in today. More videos are coming to you every 3 days. Now these days, twice a week is the cadence, and it works well so far. So I'll talk to you later, next time, very soon. See you later. Bye.